Welcome to the Newsome MMA Betting Podcast, sponsored by CBD Life UK. I'm your host as always, Newsome, and with International Fight Week now behind us, we're back to break down UFC a Fight Night 133 from Boise, Idaho. I have a guest host again this evening. It's a guy I actually met back in May at ACB 87 when we were both covering the event in Nottingham. So I'd like to welcome Jon Prentice to the podcast. How are you doing, bro?
Hello, I'm very good, mate. Very good. Thank you for having me. Looking forward to breaking down some fights with you.
Yeah, for sure, man. Now, the podcast was done a little differently last week when I had Yannick Bahati as the guest host, and honestly, I really enjoyed it. The format that we use, so it's going to remain the same and this way moving forward. So rather than having the full breakdowns and then the quick fire round at the end, we're just going to run through the card. We're going to go from top to bottom. From bottom to top, and we'll go through the entire card. So. Let's run UFC Boise, and your first fight of the night, we've got Jessica Aguilar versus Jodie Esquibel. Now, this fight is interesting because it's supposed to have happened at UFC Utica, I believe.
It was, yeah.
But New York's State Commission pulled Jessica Aguilar for apparently having chapped lips, I believe. So hopefully she's still not hurt. She's still not really hurt and really damaged, and she can fight, and it didn't damage her camp. So, John, who have you got in this one, man?
This one, I'm going Jodie Esquibel. I mean, Jag, she looked impressive before she came into the UFC, and she's fought some. Claudia Gadelha was her first fight. That's a tough fight to come into the UFC, make a UFC debut against Gadelha. Obviously lost that. Then she lost to Courtney Casey, very rangy fighter. I was impressed with Esquibel when she made a debut against Karolina Kowalkiewicz. I think she's going to get the win. I think she's going to keep her at range. I don't think Jag's going to do enough. I don't think she's going to be able to take her down and keep her there. I think Esquibel's going to win this one. I do think it'll go to a decision because looking through their records, neither of them are particularly dominant finishers. So I think it will be it'll go to the judges' scorecards. But I'm going with Esquibel on this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. I'm going Jodie Esquibel as well now. It was a fight that I taped as a potential bet, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it, and I'll tell you why. So a lot of people are either really high on Jodie Esquibel or just really fading Jessica Aguilar, and I sort of get both sides because Esquibel's come in, like you mentioned, she fought Karolina Kowalkiewicz. She put in a really good performance, even though she was dominated, but considering that it was a debut, and we know all about Kowalkiewicz and how good she is. The fight wasn't something to be sniffed at. She did a really good job in there. Well, as good as what she could have done, in my opinion. And Jessica Aguilar, like I mentioned, she hasn't looked overly impressive. Claudia Gadelha at the time that she fought her, I believe Gadelha's probably on a decline at the minute now. You can't be 100% sure, but right then when she fought Gadelha, that was a good Gadelha. So you can't really knock that on the record too much. But the fight with Courtney Casey was really weird. There was times where Casey was just laid on her back on the bottom, just kicking Aguilar, with Aguilar just looking, staring back down at her. It was a really strange fight, and I think Casey's an okay fighter, but she just makes some bad decisions inside the cage sometimes. And so I sort of get both sides, but the reason why I couldn't bet this is because I think the two questions we need to ask, is Jodie Esquibel as good as what she can be to start knocking up some wins in the UFC? And the other question is Jessica Aguilar really on her way out? And I honestly don't think you can answer either of those questions until you've seen this fight. So for me, I had to pass. The odds were nice on Esquibel. I really don't hate that bet at all. But like I say, I can't answer those questions that I've got until I've seen the fight. So ultimately, it was a pass from me. So next fight, we've got Mark De La Rosa against Elias Garcia. Mark De La Rosa, obviously, husband to Montana De La Rosa that fought last week on the Tough Finale. Really good performance from her. And Elias Garcia coming from a good gym in Rufus Sport and making his debut in the UFC. So, John, who have you got in this one?
This one's a bit of a tough one because, again, De La Rosa came in, made his UFC debut. I think it was short notice, wasn't it, against Tim Elliott?
Yeah.
And I can't say I like the look of him because he spent the majority of the fight on his back. But Elliott's one of those guys who's a really savvy, wily competitor. He's brilliant on the ground. I mean, his striking's really unorthodox as well. So it's kind of hard to judge someone and what their kind of level is against a guy like Tim Elliott, I think. He attempted a few. I remember he attempted a few submissions as well. He nearly caught Elliott in an armbar early on as well. And I think he's decent off his back. He's got decent jiu-jitsu. De La Rosa. He's got 6 submission wins to his name. That loss to Elliott was his only loss. Garcia coming in unbeaten, like you say, Rufus Sports. So you know he's going to be a good striker. But he's also got good submissions. He's got 3 submission wins to his name as well. I think this one could be a scrambles game on the ground, but I'm going with De La Rosa for this one.
Yeah, I agree with everything you've said, especially the scrambles game. I think that the experience of Mark De La Rosa will pull him through this ultimately. When you look at Elias Garcia, I think is one that we can really look forward to moving forward. You know, Rufus Sport does some good stuff, especially with fighters down in the lower weighted divisions. But you know, you look back at Garcia's record, and you know the only win and the best win that stands out for me is Adam Antolin. Obviously, who was on the Ultimate Fighter. And he actually fought Adam Antolin on Dana White's Looking for a Fight as well. So you know, he knocked him out in round 1. You know, it was impressive because I didn't think Antolin was a bad fighter. He was never one that was really I don't think ever gonna flourish in that Ultimate Fighter series just purely because of the other fighters around him. You know, we had Tim Elliott in that. We also had Pantoja. So there were some really good fighters in there. Now, like I say, I just think Mark De La Rosa, I know he came in on short notice against Tim Elliott. I know he got submitted, but ultimately I don't think it was a bad performance considering, you know, Tim Elliott will beat a lot of people in that division. He, like you mentioned, he's just so good on the mat. His scrambles are amazing. He'll almost give up position to sweep you as well. So, you know, that tells you how good he is on the mat. And I don't think Mark De La Rosa handled it badly at all. I just think eventually, because of the pace that Elliott set, I think he just tired a little bit too early. But, you know, you sort of come to expect that with fighters that are coming in on short notice. So, it's going to be a close fight, I think. It's not one that I would consider betting. The betting lines are close as well. I think they're about to pick him, or Mark De La Rosa might be the slight underdog in this. But I can see a lot of scrambles, and it wouldn't surprise me if Mark De La Rosa caught something as Garcia is scrambling as well. So, yeah, Mark De La Rosa is my pick.
Do you think Garcia, I believe he's making his debut at bantamweight. He's fought at flyweight, I think, for the entirety of his career. So, again, will he have De La Rosa's natural bantamweight? Will he have that additional power as well? Will he be able to take him down, hold him down? It's also something to consider. So I do think the edge slightly is with De La Rosa personally.
Yeah, I agree. There's and the thing is as well, when fighters are moving up and down, there's a lot of I tend not to bet so much on fighters when they're moving up or down a division, because, or at least not until I've seen the weigh-ins anyway, because the weigh-ins can tell a lot in those scenarios. So just a little bit of advice for if anybody is thinking about betting this. But generally, I just tend to stay away because there's a lot of questions to be asked. You know, cardio, power, strength, or, you know, a new height and reach, advantage, disadvantage. There's a lot of things to consider when a fighter's moving weight. So it's always, in my opinion, it's always good to see that first fight and sort of gauge where they're at. I'll give you a good example as well, like when Josh Emmett moved down to featherweight from lightweight. You know, I was a bit unsure about his cardio, but then he managed to transition that well with Team Alpha Male. He got down there. His cardio was good. He didn't lose any of that, but his power translated from lightweight. So I actually, in a way, doubted him a little bit as he moved down. But then after seeing that first fight, I thought, actually, shit, you know, this dude is actually okay at this weight. And it's that sort of gauge that you need, in my opinion. So yeah, just be careful if you're betting this, really. Then the next fight, we've got Liz Carmouche against Jennifer Meyer. Now, it's a really interesting fight, this. You know, Jennifer Meyer comes from a boxing background. She's coming up from Invicta, making a UFC debut against Liz Carmouche. Seems like she's been around for absolutely forever. Years in the UFC, you know. So, who have you got in this one, John?
This one, I'm going to go for the debutant Meyer. She seems to be, from what I've seen of her, tape and stuff from Invicta following her. She's on a good win streak. I think she's on a 7-fight win streak. Like you say, she's coming from that boxing background. She's got some good wins. I mean, she fight before last, she beat Roxanne Modafferi, who got a great win last weekend. Yeah. She looked very good last weekend, and she recently beat her. Like I said, Liz Carmouche, she's one of those. She feels like one of those old school women fighters, where again we'll get onto like Kat Zingano a bit later on. She kind of reminds me of her. I feel like sometimes the game has evolved, especially with the women's fighters, because obviously them coming into the UFC a lot more recently than the male counterparts. I just feel like sometimes some of the older female fighters that have been around for a long time are quite one-dimensional, things like that. Carmouche alternated wins and losses. I mean, last fight she lost to Alexis Davis. Davis is she's a decent fighter. She's not terrible by any stretch of the imagination. But yeah, I think Mars, she's younger. I think she'll come out with a point to prove. I think she's going to get the win.
Cool. Well, I'm going the opposite way in this one. I think Liz Carmouche is going to get the win now. You made some good points. Jennifer Meyer, good wins over Roxanne Modafferi. That, funnily enough, was the only finish on that tough finale main card.
Yes.
last Friday night. And also a win against Vanessa Porto as well, which a good win, because she's a big name in Invicta also. But for me, I just think that I think Liz Carmouche is just going to have a way with her in the clinch, and also getting the fights on the mat, which she's really good at. Her nickname's Gorilla for a reason. She's powerful, she's strong, and do you know what? I thought she had a bit of a poor performance against Alexis Davis in her last fight. A lot of people, or some people I saw, were calling that a bit of a robbery, or it should have gone the other way. I personally agreed with Alexis Davis winning that fight. I just think the reason why Carmouche lost the fight is she made some bad decisions during the fight. So I think at one point, I think if I remember rightly, it was 1-1 going into the third round, and Carmouche was teeing off on her, had her rocked against the cage, and then decided to shoot rather than carry on punching her to finish the fight. So it was decisions like that that really sort of put me off betting this fight, because the lines are close, and Liz Carmouche is a very slight favourite in this fight, and I tend to agree with the line, but I just don't tend to trust Carmouche sort of after what I saw in her last fight against Alexis Davis. So I think it's going to go to a decision. I don't see a finish, and I just think Meyer's going to spend some time on her back, that's all, and ultimately it'll give Carmouche the decision on the judges' scorecards. So next up, we've got a really fun fight, and some people are tipping this to be fight of the night as well.
Fight of the night contender, I think.
Absolutely, I'm really looking forward to it. So we've got Kurt Holobaugh against Raoni Barcelos. So talk to me, John.
I really like the looks of this fight. This is going to be an exciting fight, I think. Holobaugh coming in, he was on Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series, of course. He looked good in that. I really liked his combos. He was rocking Matt Bassetti. He's ripping that body as well. I remember thinking at the time, he had him up against the cage, and he's hitting him with 5 or 6 punch combos. He's ripping that body. I was thinking that can't be pleasant. But he's pretty wild as well. He did get caught a few times in that. He got clipped. Someone with a bit more power maybe could do some damage. Coming from Titan, of course. I think he was the Titan lightweight champion, or the interim lightweight champion. They always have good caliber fighters over there as well. So he's coming from a tough background. I've got him edging this one, but Barcelos could easily take it as well. He's I think he was the RFA champ, if I recall. Yeah, and again he's quite aggressive, quite wild as well. I'm looking through some of his highlights and stuff. His latest win was a massive left hook that folded. I think it was Dan Moret. He folded him like a deck chair. So both of these guys have got power. But I think Holobaugh, his combos, I think he might overwhelm Barcelos. But like you said, I think this one's got the potential to be a fight of the night.
Yeah, absolutely. I also think from the betting perspective as well, it's one that I would advise people to stay away from, and the reason being is Kurt Holobaugh is a huge favourite. I think the line's off. I think he should be a slight favourite in my opinion. But ultimately, I think he's going to win, so I wouldn't recommend betting Raoni Barcelos. And also, like we've said, it could be fight of the night. It's going to be a really, really good fight. So it's one of them where you don't really want to sweat while you're watching it, having a bet on
No,
it. You know, just
you
sit
just
back
want to
and
enjoy it.
yeah, absolutely sit back and enjoy it for what it is, just like we did with Francis Ngannou and Derek Lewis last week. So
They were all
yeah,
enjoying that, weren't they? The crowd with their Mexican wave.
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I agree with you. I think Kurt Oliver's gonna edge this one out. I did tape this fight, and I was looking at Raoni Barcelos because he interested me, and he's also got a good record at 11-1 as well.
Yes,
Um,
yeah.
and also 6 knockouts, 4 submissions. It's sort of the type of fighter where, the type of record where if you're not getting your knockout, you can edge out a decision, which again is really good for betting. But um, I wasn't, I liked him in regards to him being aggressive and being fun to watch. I just thought he can be a bit sloppy with his strikes though. Like he was throwing a
Yeah.
weird like right hand. It wasn't sort of like a donkey punch, but it was sort of halfway between a crisp straight right and a donkey
Yeah.
punch, if there is
Yeah.
such thing. So yeah, it was just a few little things like that I saw, and then when I was watching Kurt Holobaugh, his striking was crisp, but he leaves himself open to be hit as well, so he's quite hittable.
Yeah.
So yeah, as soon as I watched sort of one fight of each of them, I was just confident it was an easy pass. My pick is Kurt Holobaugh. I'm going to take him by decision. I think both have got decent chins. I think both chins will hold up, and yeah, I'm just hoping for a really fun scrap. So next
I
one,
think it could be, yeah. I think it most likely will be a very entertaining scrap.
yeah, I can't wait for it. Like I say, it's not one that I'd recommend to bet on. Just sit back, grab a beer, and enjoy it.
I said this the other day, though, like you said about Lewis and Ngannou. I said to everyone, I said, if you're going to watch a fight on this card, I said, watch this. It's two big knockout artists, big heavyweights, and then look what we got.
Yeah, absolutely. I was in and out of sleep as well at that point. It was really that bad, and my mate was just nudging me, trying to get me to watch this clip on his phone of the Ultimate Fighter, and I was so tired, man. But we digress. Anyway, so the next fight we've got Justin Scoggins against the newcomer Said Nurmagomedov. Now, it's a really interesting fight because Said Nurmagomedov is Habib's cousin, I believe. Another Dagestani-born
Yeah.
Russian. But I've got a lot to say about this Dagestani-born Russian. But let's hear what you've got to say first, John. Who have you got?
This one again is a fight that I'm very excited for. I think it'll be a stand-up battle. A lot of people see the name Nurmagomedov and they think straight away that wrestling is going to take him down, grind people out. But from what I've seen of Said Nurmagomedov, he's the complete opposite to his cousin. He's good on the feet. He's got a nice array of kicks. I'm not sure whether he's really got that power. I mean, a lot of his fights, he's 11-1, but a lot of his fights have got to decision. Scoggins, again, he's got a karate background, so he likes to keep it standing. One thing about Scoggins is he's got some great wins on his record. I mean, he beat Ray Borg, Josh Sampo when he beat him at the time. He was a decent standard fighter, but he just makes terrible decisions. And he seems to not learn from the fact that when he shoots him for a takedown, he leaves his neck exposed all the time. He lost to Sasaki via guillotine, Pedro Munoz via guillotine. His last 3 losses have all come via guillotine. Leaves his neck exposed. So I think if he can get over that aspect of his game, the decision making and these errors that he seems to throw in there, I think he could be a decent, maybe even top 5 level guy in the flyweight division. But I'm going to go again with the newcomer Nurmagomedov in this. I like the look of some of the tape that I watched. Like I said, I like the look of his stand-up. Coming from a Dagestani background, he'll always be a strong wrestler anyway. They all got that Sambo style as well, so. It wouldn't surprise me again if Scoggins shoots in, leaves his neck exposed, and gets chokes in this one.
Sure. So, I mean, everybody knows me, and everybody that listens to this knows that I love these Dagestani-born Russians. I love nothing more than putting a bet on a guy that's just dumping another guy down time and time and time again and beating him up against the cage. There's nothing that gets me going more than that, man. When I've got a lot of money on the line and my guy's doing that for me. So I got really excited. Obviously, I saw the Nurmagomedov name. I delved into it and I was so disappointed that he wasn't.
He's
like
not that kind of guy, is
no,
he?
he's not like
mad.
his cousins. He's not like Habib. And also the UFC have signed another one of his cousins, I believe, in Abu Bakr Nurmagomedov as well. He's more like Khabib as well. So I was a bit like, no way, as if my Dagestani-born Russian isn't this way. So I'm going the other way though, man. I'm picking Justin Scoggins here. I'm going for the underdog. I think that I disagree slightly with what you said in regards to being a complete stand-up war. I don't think just because, I mean, Saeed Nurmagomedov his striking's flashy, he's quick, his combinations, his unorthodox kicks and flashy stuff. Everything about his striking game is really, really crisp, and it reminds me a lot of Zabit Magomed Sharipov as well.
Yes.
And I just think once Justin Scoggins, I mean, he's a kickboxer by trade, but I think once he sees what Saeed's going to bring to the table and inside the cage, I think he's going to revert back to his takedowns now. You know, if you look at most of Scoggins' fights in the UFC, at least anyway, you know, he scored 5 takedowns against Dustin Ortiz. I think it was 3 against John Moraga. He put Ray Borg on his back 4 times. You know, the guy's got good takedowns now. I don't think he's got. I don't think his grappling is that good to keep these guys down. But the thing is, in the judges' eyes, if these are close rounds and he's scored 2 takedowns in a round, but they've got up straight away, it's still going to look good in the judges' eyes. So he's not confident enough for me to bet. I also can't put my name against betting against the Nurmagomedov as well. I can't bring myself to do that. But yeah, Justin Scoggins is the pick. I think that it's going to be a very close fight. It could even potentially be a split, you know, with Saeed having more significant strikes, but Scoggins getting more takedowns, spending a little bit of time in top control. I think we could end up splitting the judges' opinions on what they're scoring more out of those 2 categories. So I can see a very close fight. I can see a very close decision. Ultimately, I'm going Justin Scoggins. The next fight, we've got Darren the Damage Elkins. We won't forget his nickname at all, against Alexander Volkanovski. So this, honestly, I think this is a sleeper fight on the card. I don't think it should be in the prelims. I think it should be on the main card. I think it could even be co-main or maybe just after co-main. It's buried in the prelims unnecessarily, in my opinion. But with that aside, John, who are we picking to win?
Like you just said, it took the words right out of my mouth. I'm baffled is the word I use, that this is where it is on the card placement. I also think this should be the co-main event. Volkanovski's looking a great up-and-comer. He's got some good solid wins to his name already. Elkins, he's very rarely in anything but a war. Like we said earlier, he's got some real heart. He's probably got the biggest heart in the whole of mixed martial arts. That fight with Mirsad Bektic was one of the craziest comebacks I've ever seen. This one for me was really tough to pick, and after watching tape and looking at the backgrounds, their records and everything, I still couldn't pick a winner. But I think Elkins is going to edge it.
Interesting, very interesting. You know, he's nearly a 3-1 dog, don't you?
He is, yeah. He's, I saw the betting house, but I can just never rule him out. I mean, some of his wins, his recent wins as well. Michael Johnson, Dennis Bermudez, Bektic. Like I said, Bektic did beat him up for the first 2 rounds, and he was looking pretty dead and buried going into that third. But he seems to be able to grind it out. A team alpha male guy, so you know what you're going to get with those guys. Good solid wrestling. Yeah, just looking at Elkins' records again, like Godfredo Pepe, he's beat Chaz Skelly, Rob Whiteford, some good names in there. Volkanovski, again, I'm really impressed with Volkanovski, and he could go a long way. I think he's got a very high ceiling. Very impressive win against Kennedy. If I remember rightly, I think he started quite slowly in that, but then found his feet pretty quickly and a good finish. Shane Young as well. I like the look of Shane Young, but he got that win over Shane Young. He's a strong wrestler as well, powerful guy. But I can just see Elkins edging it again. He's slowly working his way up those rankings. He's got some good wins behind him. I think he'll be confident. I think I just can't rule him out. And I love that tattoo of his. How can you not love the world's worst tattoo?
Absolutely, man. I'm going the other way. I'm going Volkanovski. Now, it's a weird one, this, because I'm sort of confident he's going to win, but I'm not confident in the line I was given. Now, when I was watching tape, I was sort of analysing it and looking back and forth and looking at the path to victory and potentially what's going to happen in the fight. And I just really saw Volkanovski edging it here, and I was thinking that we might get a line of around -150, maybe a little bit better for Volkanovski, but
yeah,
he's sort of at like -300, -350 now, I think, and that line is so out of whack. I can't even tell you how out of whack it is. But having said that, if he was -150, I'd have bet him. I'd have took the bet. I'd have took the chance. Now.
Yeah.
I did cash on Darren Elkins. You know, I wouldn't fade the guy. I cashed on him in his last fight against Michael Johnson. A lot of people were betting Johnson. I think I got like +150 for him, so I got him at a nice underdog price. Came through for me in that second round. But what he always does is get beat up. He gets beat up until his opponent tires, and then he comes back. And I actually heard a pretty cool story. I can't remember where I heard it from actually. From out of, I can't remember if it was Team Alpha Male or one of his previous gyms, but basically there were a load of Russians, they were all sparring, and it were a case of you do a few minutes with each guy, keep switching it up, and basically these Russians were beating the shit out of him. They all beat the shit out of him, and then they were all tired, and then just those were like, right, we're done, sparring's over. Apparently Elkins was stood up saying, what the hell, guys? Come on, let's go again. I'm ready. I'm ready to go. So that's sort of his style. He'll get beat up until the other guy is tired. Now, I just don't think Volkanovski is going to tire. And he's got a similar sort of style as Bektic in regards to his ground and pound as well. So I think that's the reason why Bermudez struggled against Darren Elkins, purely because when he was taking him down, he couldn't really do anything whilst he was on the ground. He wasn't dominating enough, grappling and dominating enough with his ground and pound, whereas Volkanovski is completely the flip of that. If he gets you down, he will be solid on top. I spot stuff with grapplers really well. It's one of my fortes in the sport. So, you'll spot things like pulling his arm that's balancing him on the mat away as he's trying to stand up, to flatten him back on the mat again, and just trapping limbs and things like that as he's passing and transitioning with perfect balance. A lot of these things he's really clever at, Volkanovski. So he's a great grappler, and like I say, he throws his ground and pound as well, which is what was absolutely destroying Elkins for 2.5 rounds in that Bektic fight. I just think that once he got up, Bektic was absolutely done, and he just got caught. It is what it is. I just don't see Volkanovski tiring. I think he's the type of fighter that will be able to go all night if he has to, and so is Elkins. This fight could also be the fight of the night, in my opinion.
I think you're right there.
Especially if you like grappling, because I think there's going to be a lot of good grappling exchanges. Elkins is really good at clinching up and working to the back instantly in a flash, in the blink of an eye. 1 minute he'll have a body lock, the next minute he'll be on your back. That move and that transition of his is so great. So I think there's going to be a lot of fun grappling wars in this fight. But yeah, man, I feel Volkanovski is just going to have the edge on him purely because of the ground and pound. I think that ultimately, I think whoever is dominating the grappling is going to win the fight, because if Darren Elkins takes Volkanovski down and puts him on his back, I wouldn't bet that Volkanovski would get up to his feet very easily. We forget how good Elkins is when he's in top control, and the pressure and the heavy weight that he's got on his opponent. So yeah, it's a close fight, but yeah, I've got Volkanovski winning.
How far do you think Volkanovski can go in the featherweight division? Because I mean, he looks like he's got some real potential. Do you think he can be top 5?
Absolutely. He's, in my opinion, and I think in a lot of people's opinions as well, the best discipline in mixed martial arts is wrestling, and if you can match your wrestling with a good grappling topside game, you're going to win a lot of fights, and that's exactly what Volkanovski does. But he also adds in the ground and pound as well. It's almost like sort of a similar game as what Habib's got now. I'm not saying he's as good as Habib, but there's similarities in his grappling and some of the crafty techniques he uses, especially up against the cage as well, and the ground and pound. So yeah, I definitely think he can be top 5, and the dude's small as well, which I think also aids him, because the smaller you are as a wrestler, the closer to the hips you are. So you're not having to duck down.
Shoots that perfect height.
Exactly, you're not having to duck down too low to shoot in at the hips. So yeah, I think he's got a really, really high ceiling. And I think if he beats Darren Elkins, this is his ticket to, because if he beats Darren Elkins, it won't just be like, right, we'll step you up to the next opponent. If he beats Darren Elkins, he'll get a really fucking good fight next fight. So I think his ceiling's really high. And next up, we've got Eddie Wineland against Alejandro Perez. So John, talk to me about this one.
Wineland again is one of those fighters that you look at his name, you think, man, this guy's been around for ages. Absolutely ages. And well, yeah, he has, yeah. And to be honest, a lot of people forget about him because he does only tend to fight like once a year. You're lucky if you see him twice a year. And he's one of those guys, when I saw his name on the card, I thought, he's going to lose, his chin's gone. But then when I actually look back on his fights and things, I mean, he lost his last fight to John Dodson. Dodson's got decent power. He lost that by decision. And then he had 2 wins prior to that. Wins over Mizugaki, wins over Frankie Sands. And they're no mugs. I mean, Mizugaki was, he's fallen off the wagon a bit of late as he gets older, but he's no mug, especially when he was over in the UFC. But then again, Perez, he's on a good win streak. Beautiful KO of Matthew Lopez in his last fight. Defeated defeated Alcantara. He won a bit of a contentious split decision over. I always pronounce this guy's name wrong. Sukumtar, sorry. That was a bit of it could have gone either way kind of fight, but again, I think this one's going to be close. I think this is going to go to a decision, but I'm going with Pérez to edge it. Pérez does have that knockout power, but as does Wineland. Both got a decent number of knockouts on their record. But yeah, when I was doing a bit of research for this, I think I didn't give Wineland the respect he deserved, because I thought, just when I see his name, I kind of think he's been around forever. I see Drew Corley getting knocked out a few times. Obviously, that famous defeat to Barao in the title fight. And I didn't really give him the respect that he deserves. But yeah, I think they'll go the distance, but I think Perez is going to edge it out.
Yeah, I agree. And on Twitter just before this, I did tweet that I'd bet 3 fights out of the 3 that I wanted to bet, and I'd already listed 2 of them earlier on today, and the third that I was going to announce on this podcast, and this is the third bet. So I've got 3.5 units on Alejandro Perez at -185. Now, I think it's a perfect spot for Alejandro Perez to come out and get another win here. I'm liking everything that I'm seeing from him. I think he's going to have a lot in his favour in this fight. I just want to talk about Eddie Wineland a bit, because you touched upon something I was going to mention. We'll start at 2013. He fought once, he fought twice in 2014, he fought once in 2015, he fought twice in 2016, and he fought once last year. And now he's coming in sort of midway through this year, so it's looking like he'll probably only fight once again. So I just don't think he's fighting enough. And I also think that's one of the reasons why sort of people forget his name. Now, he is only 34, and I don't think that's a massively old age in this game, but what he has got is 36 fights to his name, which he's been battle tested. He might not have the age going against him, but his fighting age, 36 fights. I do think that he's on his way out. I think he's slowed down a lot. I don't think he can keep up with quicker fighters. You look at John Dodson. Yeah, John Dodson beat him, but John Dodson's also another fighter that I think's lost a little bit of speed.
He has lost that edge, well. Yeah.
And John Dodson absolutely murked him. Wineland couldn't couldn't even really land much against Dodson. He couldn't really
He couldn't
do
touch
anything.
him really, Dodson, with that in and out style. He was just
for sure.
just shadow boxing, wasn't he? Really.
And he's also had his jaw broken a couple of times as well in the UFC, which is interesting. So I think Johnny Eduardo broke his jaw, and I believe the other one was Renan Barão, but I could be wrong about that. So, that's not great for him either. Has it made him chinny? I don't know. He's only been knocked out 3 times out of 12, so I'm not too sure. But you look at his last 3 wins. You've got Takeya Mizugaki, who was probably on his way out at that point. You've got Frankie Saenz that was beating him. He was taking him down. He was having a good fight until they stood up. I think in the it was the 3rd round. He stood up in the 3rd round and got knocked out. So there was that fight. Then we've got the next fight that he won against Yves Jabouin. For me, I just don't think he's been fighting at the top of fighting the top competition and beating the top competition, should I say, as of late. Because I still think John Dodson's good. Brian Caraway's okay. Johnny Eduardo's sort of fell off a cliff, but I just don't think the level of competition that he's beating is that great. Now you flip over to Alejandro Perez. The guy, I don't think stands out in any one area. He's really well rounded. He's got 9 wins by knockout. He's got 5 by submission, 6 on the scorecards. He's fought 27 times as well, and the dude's only 28. So
that's crazy.
Again, it's sort of a similar situation, but I just don't think this dude's anywhere near a decline. I think he's flourishing. I think he's in the prime of his career.
He's in his prime at the moment.
As I mentioned to you while you were talking, I bet Matthew Lopez in that last fight. I thought Lopez had him. He had a good first round. Perez stayed in it. He's always in the fight. He's never out the fight. He actually TKO'd Matthew Lopez. I was really impressed there. Got a unanimous decision against Yuri Alcantara. Alcantara's a bit of a weird fighter, but sort of wins fights that you don't expect him to, loses fights that you do expect him to win. So that sort of fighter, but still nonetheless a good performance there. Then you've got the Andrei Sukumtar fight, which you mentioned. Personally, I thought that Perez won that, and so many people disagreed with me and still disagree with me with this. I did think that he edged it, but then he's got Scott Jorgensen on his record as well. He's got a lot of good wins now. How I think he wins this fight is in the same way Dodson won. I think he's got to use his speed. He's got to use leg kicks. He's got to mix it up from top to bottom, and just constantly move in and out of range, which I think he can do. And I think he could do for 5 rounds if he needed to. His cardio is insane. Like I've said, he's always in the fight. I'm not sure if there's going to be a takedown in this fight. I definitely don't see one from Wineland, and I think Perez is going to be having so much success on the feet that I doubt that we'd see that. But I just think he's going to use his movement. He's going to be in and out. He's going to pepper him with shots. Going to mix it up with leg kicks, starting combinations with leg kicks, finishing with leg kicks, and just ultimately piecing Wineland up to the point where he gets as frustrated as what I thought he was getting against John Dodson as well. I really do think that we see a bit of a carbon copy between this fight and that John Dodson fight, because there's a lot. I feel that there's a lot of similarities in Perez and Dodson as well. Another thing to mention with Alejandro Perez, he's now training at AKA, so he's got Luis Violent Bob Ross Pena there. He's got Khabib Nurmagomedov there. He's got obviously Daniel Cormier, Cain Velasquez. I just think that that move for him at this stage of his career is nothing short of genius. I just think it's an absolutely perfect move at the perfect time. And to be honest with you, I think Eddie Wineland is actually, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, I think he is actually worse than Alejandro Perez's last 3 wins, Matthew Lopez, Alcantara, and Sukumtar. I
would agree with you on that one as well.
I just think they're all that little bit better than him, and he's come out shining from that. So the last thing to mention before I wrap this up is I personally think this is going to go to a decision. I do think that Wineland is tough. I don't think Perez will put him out. And when you look at fights going to the decision, Alejandro Perez is 6-2, whereas Wineland's 4-5. So I think that speaks volumes as well of sort of the point style. I just feel that Perez is a winner, whether it be close, whether it be decisive. The dude just knows how to win, and I trust that as a bet. So to wrap it up, I've got 3.5 units on Alejandro Perez to defeat Eddie Wineland at -185. So the next fight and we move into the main card. We've got
Main card time, yeah.
Kat Zingano against Marion Reneau. So you mentioned earlier you had some stuff to say about this fight, so fire away, man.
Yeah, this is one of those fights again. Two older ladies in the weight class. I mean, Kat Zingano's about 36 and Reneau's about 41, I think she is now. I've got so much respect for her because she's a PE teacher as well, isn't she? I say spare time. I probably imagine that takes up most of her time, and
I believe
she fights in her spare time. Yeah.
I think she has had a full-time camp though for this fight.
Okay, that's interesting. I didn't realise that, but yeah, yes, I've got crazy respect for her. And she's riding the crest of a bit of a wave at the moment. She's won 3 of her last 4 with that draw to Betchkahaya. But I am going with Kat Zingano on this one. I think Zingano will bully her in the clinch. Zingano's a bit of an ugly striker. She likes those like sloppy flurry kind of things. She's not very crisp with her striking. Like I was saying earlier on with the Carmouche fight, I think she's a bit of a she's quite one-dimensional in the fact that she likes to grind you out and take you down. And Reneau's you can take her down. She got taken down by Kahea, I think, quite regularly. And I think that's how it's going to go. I think Kat's going to bully her a bit. I think she's going to work for the clinch, push her up against the cage, take her down, and just hold her down. Which it feels quite weird saying that I'm going with someone who's lost their last 3, hasn't won since 2014, against the woman who's riding the crest of a wave. But yeah, I think Zingano is going to win this one.
Absolutely, I agree with you. And this is the next bet of the night. So I've got 3 units on Kat Zingano at plus 100 to win 3 units back. So yeah, I'm really confident in Kat Zingano, man. I expected it to sort of be around the minus 150 mark, maybe pushed up to like minus 170, minus 175. Yeah. So I was really, really pleasantly surprised to actually get plus money on her. I think a price is actually getting even better than that now. So yeah, I think stylistically this is a very, very good fight for Kat Zingano. Like, you know, you mentioned a lot of the points there. You know, coming off a 3-fight losing streak for Kat Zingano and not won since 2014. But come on, let's be honest. Like, her last fight, she got beat by Ketlen Vieira. In my opinion,
she's a monster.
Yeah, Ketlen Vieira will be a champion. In that division, and also not just that. So not only is Ketlen Vieira young, a promising contender now, and potentially a future champion, she also had the exact perfect style to completely smother Zingano's style. You couldn't have had a more contrasting 2 fighters in the styles ever, in my opinion. Now,
yeah,
I actually bet Ketlen Vieira that night, cashed on her. It got a little bit hairy towards the end, so I think Ketlen gassed a little bit, but, you know, ultimately, you know, it shouldn't have been a split decision. It says a split decision on the record. Whichever judge scored that to Zingano, well, I don't even know what to tell you. But then your next one, Juliana Pena. Now, at the time, she was like top 3, I believe. Ronda Rousey was a loss before that. She was the best in the world at that time.
That was a bit of a freak fight as well, wasn't it? She kind of went bull rushing in and just got caught in a crazy scramble and lost after about like 12 seconds or something ridiculous, wasn't it? So you couldn't really. I don't know how that would have gone if it would have played out a little bit longer and that little scramble.
I still think Ronda Rousey might have still won that fight because ultimately Kat Zingano likes to get the fight to the mat, and if she was on top, she'd have just got armbarred from bottom, I believe. So,
but Kat's got some great wins as well. I mean,
she's got Amanda Nunes, Miesha Tate, Raquel Pennington, even all the way down there. I know obviously this doesn't mean a lot after last week, but Barb Honchak's down there as well. Yes, another name that stands out. Now Marion Reneau, again, you touched upon this. In my opinion, she's on a 4-fight win streak because that draw to Betchkahaya was not a draw. She won that fight, I think, pretty clearly. I have no idea how that was scored a draw, so that was, in my opinion, pretty bad judging. But you look at those 4 wins. You've got Sarah McMahon, a fighter that I think is great, but ultimately just gets caught. and it sort of lets herself down a little bit. Then you've got Bernardo, you've got Betchquay, you've got Milana Dudieva as her 4 wins. I just don't think the level of competition
They're not
that
on the level, are they?
been fighting, is anywhere close to what Zingano's been fighting. Now, the other thing to mention, I did do a bit of digging with this because, like I say, I love the grapplers, I love my wrestling. Out of those last 4 fights that Reneau's fought, she's been taken down 9 times, and 2 of those were by Betchquay. Now, prior to that,
she doesn't take anyone down.
No, I didn't think she'd actually took anybody down. But prior to that, Betchquay did have 1 takedown in 2013. aside from that, and she took her down twice. I don't think she could keep her down that well, but you don't really expect her to because Betchquay isn't a wrestler or a grappler. I'm just thinking that if Reneau's getting taken down 9 times in 4 fights, what is Zingano going to do? Now, Zingano, for me, I don't think she's got great striking at all. It tends to be like a wild, rushing flurry at her opponents, but as weird as it looks and untechnical as I think it is, it aids her game perfectly because her game is to get close, to clinch up against the cage and get the fight to the mat. Now, what happens when she comes rushing in, chin in the air, arms flailing about? I just don't think there's so much power in that division where I'd be worried about her getting caught with a counter while she's flooring. I think the women that she fights tend to freeze up when she's doing that. And the one fighter that didn't, and I've already mentioned this, it was the last fight in Ketlin Vieira, because Vieira just had that great style to beat her. Now, sorry, the exact style to beat her. But yeah, I think she's gonna flurry her, throw some flurrying punches, bull rush forward, get a hold of Reneau and take her down. And honestly, if she can't do that, if she can't get Reneau down, I actually think she loses the fight because Reneau's better stood up, a lot better stood up. But I just don't envisage a scenario where Kat Zingano doesn't do that. Now, people might say, oh well, Reneau knows what to expect, she knows what's coming, but that's the problem because Kat Zingano probably is very aware that her strike, she would get beat in the strike and in the stand-up. She's going to be going for that takedown more than ever because that's the path to victory. And it's almost like, again, I'm dropping this name a lot, and there's definitely no comparisons here before anyone tries twisting my words. But it's similar to Khabib. Everybody knows what Khabib wants to do, but they can't stop it.
You can't stop it.
And I see a similar situation. Kat's obviously nowhere near as dominant, but when you're getting taken down 9 times in 4 fights by, you can sort of get McMahon a little bit. She's an Olympic wrestler, but I don't think the rest are a great takedown artist where I think Kat Zingano is. So I just feel that Kat's going to have a lot of success in the fight. I feel that she is going to get takedowns. Once she is on top, she is quite heavy on top. She very rarely makes mistakes. I know I've been talking to a few people about this fight today. A lot of people are thinking that Reneau might get a submission, but I don't really see how that narrative's created because you look at Reneau's submission game. Before, she caught Sarah McMahon in a triangle. Props, well played. She did a great job. But before that, she didn't actually have a submission for like 6 fights. So for me, it's a bit like,
I think that fight with McMahon as well. I'm sure I remember watching it that she was flirting with that triangle quite often, and she just didn't seem to learn a lesson. She kept getting caught and nearly getting caught, and then eventually she did get caught. So that was kind of
she wasn't pulling her hand out when she was trying to control the wrist either, so.
I remember looking and thinking she's really confident that she's not going to get caught in this triangle, and then
bang,
boom, she did.
So with that submission thing, before that fight, had a submission in 6 fights, and then you look back at Zingano, she's never been knocked out. Obviously, we're not talking about knockouts right now, but in regards to submissions, she's only been submitted once. That was by Ronda Rousey, that was the best in the world at the time, and she was also a bit daft with that as well. So I think when Kat Zingano's on top, I'm not concerned about Reneau submitting her from bottom at all. I think she's got quite a heavy top game. She's powerful, she's strong, and I think Reneau's the type of fighter that would frustrate me if I'd bet her. And the reason being is when she's on bottom, she tends not to try and work back to her feet. She just tends to look for submissions from bottom. And ultimately what that's doing is just wasting time. And, you're losing the fight on the clock and you're running the clock down and the judges are scoring it for your opponent. So all these things added together, I think Kat Zingano's got a really good chance of winning this fight, and I think that's exactly what she's going to do. So to wrap it up, 3 units on Kat Zingano at plus 100. And the next fight, very interesting, we've got Myles Jury against Chad Mendes. Obviously, Chad Mendes coming back from the USADA suspension. I think it was nearly 3 years ago that he last fought. Against Myles Jury, who also, in my opinion, I don't think fights as much as he should, but a very good fight nonetheless. Who have you got, John?
This one, very interesting fight. I'm really looking forward to this one. I'm looking forward to seeing what Chad Mendes is all about after that USADA suspension. When I was looking back, doing my research, etc., I made me feel old because I can't believe that last time I saw him fight was 2015. I thought, wow.
Yeah,
I thought sure. I am getting on now. But yeah, I mean, he's in a bit of a tough spot. I mean, if he loses this, he's in a. He's not old. He's only 33, but he's been around for a long time. That would make it 4 out of 5 losses if he loses this one. So it's kind of a real must win, and it's definitely not an easy fight to come back to as a must win fight. Jury, like you said, he's been around for a long time as well. I remember he started fighting at a really young age, and there was some real hype around him. You covered it perfectly. I don't think he fights enough. I don't think he fights often enough. I think he was fighting up at lightweight, wasn't he, before, and he just wasn't big enough for that weight class. He's moved down to featherweight. He's 2-1 since he's moved to featherweight. Obviously defeated Rick Glenn, who's also on this card, in his last fight. Mike De La Torre. That loss comes to Charles Oliveira. He's a dangerous fighter, losing by submission. Oliveira submits a lot of guys, so that's nothing to be ashamed about. But yeah, Mendes obviously, that last fight against Edgar, he just got caught with a big hook that put him away. Then obviously before that, the McGregor fight, just got worn down, came into the fight on short notice. But he did get a good victory over Lamas prior to that. Lamas is a dangerous guy. But it's, like I say, you don't know what kind of Chad Mendes you're going to get. So for that reason, I'm going with Myles Jury. I think he's tall for the division. He's got that reach advantage over Mendes. Training up at TriStar, they're always solid wrestlers up there. Obviously Mendes, alpha male guy, strong wrestler. He has got that one punch knockout power, but he specialises in that wrestling. I think if Myles Jury can keep this at range, keep Mendes on the outside, I think he'll point his way to a decision victory.
Cool. I'm going exactly the same. I'm going to keep this short and sweet. I can do that with the next few fights because it's really, it's really simple to break down. And it's really simple to tell people why I'm not betting the fight now. I've got Myles Jury to win as well. The reason I can't bet this is just because I'm not betting against a D1 wrestler, which is what Chad Mendes is now. We don't know what Chad Mendes is going to look like. We've got no idea. It was nearly 3 years since he fought. We don't know what sort of effects he's going to have from USADA. We don't know if he's going to have ring rust. Ironically, the last few fighters that I can think of off the top of my head that have come back after a long period of time being off and you sort of question the ring rust have come out looking absolutely amazing. Dominic Cruz and
Korean Zombie.
They're the two that spring to my mind instantly. So honestly, I think if you're betting this fight, you're almost guessing because I don't think you can be sure that Chad Mendes is going to look good or if he's going to look bad. I think if you are betting it though and you've taken the shot on Myles Jury at plus 200, I suppose even at a guess at plus 200, I don't hate that so much. It's not my style of betting, but I can understand it might be somebody else's. For those that don't know, at the end of July, it's going to be the last time that these bets are free. From myself, I will be charging for my picks from then on. The one thing I can promise with that is you'll never ever have to bet against a D1 wrestler because I'm just not going to do that to you. You can't. I really wanted to bet Jury, but I can't bet against a D1 wrestler. I just cannot do it because the worst thing in the world with betting in MMA is betting against a fighter and then watching him just getting dumped on his back and laid on for 3 rounds. There's seriously nothing more demoralising and upsetting than doing that. It's happened to me 3 times in sort of the 18 months that I've been betting, and it just won't happen again. I just made sure, I should have probably learned first and second time, but I made a lot of mistakes early on in my betting career. So yeah, I ain't betting against a D1 wrestler. My pick's going to be Jory, which is great. It can be a pick because I've got no money on it. I'm not sure. Well, I am sure how he has to do it. He has to keep a distance. He can't let Chad Mendes take him down, because even if Mendes does look bad, his wrestling's still going to be there. But then on the flip side, I'm not going to bet Chad Mendes at -250, coming off knockouts against McGregor and Edgar, and then having a 3-year layoff for USADA. That would just be a daft thing to do. So the pick's Myles Jury. I think he probably gets it done by decision. Now, next fight we've got Randy Brown against Niko Price. Again, for me, this is very easy to break down and very easy to tell you why I've passed on the bet as well. But I want to hear what you've got to say, John.
Yeah, these two guys again. These are two tough fighters. Tough fight to pick as well. When I was looking through their fights, looking through their records and things, I was thinking this is. If I was going to bet on the card, I'd definitely avoid this one. I do think Niko Price is going to win it. I was impressed with his performance over George Sullivan in his last fight. He's got a good win as well over Alan Jouban, who's always in and around that top 15. Wins over Brandon Thatch as well, who is a tough guy. I do like Randy Brown. I've been at his last 2 fights actually live. I was at 217 and 208. Unfortunately,
nice
I was at 208. So I was one of the people who had to endure that card.
That was the Holly Holm and Jermaine card, right? Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah,
for all the wrong reasons.
It was a terrible card. My first trip to the United States to watch the UFC, and I highly regretted it afterwards. But these things happen. But yeah, Randy Brown, he's a good all-rounder. Sorry, he's rangy. He's quite tall. He's about 6'3". He's got a long reach. I think he'll try and work it on the outside. He's strong wrestling as well. But yeah, I do see Niko Price taking this. I think it's another one that will go the distance. But I think Price will take it.
Yeah, I agree. For me, it's really simple. I think Randy Brown's the better fighter. He's the better technical fighter. He'll land more volume in the fight. But I think when the judges are scoring it, I think the forward pressure from Price and the aggression from him will just look better in the judges' eyes for some reason. Like, you look at Brown's kicks, like I say, he's got really good rangy kicks and he's got a good variety as well, but they do seem to be, to tip and tap, not that I'd want to take one on the chin myself. But they don't look like something that's ever gonna you don't see one of the kicks and think, oh man, that could have put him down. You know what I mean? It's
no.
I just feel that he's gonna land more volume. Price is gonna land the more powerful shots, and also be the aggressor in the fight as well. And ultimately, I just think the judges are going to score it to Niko Price. Now, the reason why I haven't bet it, aside from I think it's going to be a close fight and that the judges are going to score it potentially wrong, who knows?
Yeah.
I actually bet Niko Price against George Sullivan, a fight where I thought Niko Price was absolutely going to steamroll through George Sullivan. And man, he made me sweat in that bet.
He struggled early on, didn't I? I remember
did.
Thinking, wow, this isn't the Niko Price I was looking forward to. But
and I don't like sweating on bets. It's not something I like. Unfortunately, you do in every one, but some you sweat more than others. In that particular fight, and do you know what I think it is? I think Niko Price fight is close, and I say this quite a lot on this podcast about certain fighters. And for those that haven't heard me say it before, what I mean by fighting close is he'll fight close to his opponent's level. So when you look at Price against Luque, he got finished, but he looked great out there. And for me, Luque's top prospect in the division. He's looking really good. But then he goes out there against George Sullivan, who's head and shoulders below someone like Luque. And yes, he won and got the finish, but it was close while it lasted. And I just don't trust a fighter that fights that close. And like I say, I think he's going to win the decision. He's definitely a no bet, so definitely a pass for all the reasons that I mentioned. I also wouldn't recommend betting it either, unless for some reason you have got a really good read on it. But I feel that I've got a good read on this fight, and yeah, I think it's going to be close, man. So next fight we've got Dennis Bermudez against Rick Glenn. So yet another Team Alpha Male fighter on the card against Dennis Bermudez, who's also fought many Team Alpha Male fighters in the past. So who have you got, John?
This one, Bermudez, I think, is fighting for his UFC future. 3 losses on the bounce. He's lost 5 of his last 7. He's one of these fighters that seems to get knocked down in every single fight. I always think he's definitely someone you can catch. He's gone away from it. I think he's also an NCAA Division 1 wrestler, but he doesn't seem to use it enough for me. Like, he seems to enjoy getting into those brawls. He doesn't use his wrestling enough for me, because he is a strong wrestler. Yeah, I mean, his last 3 fights, he's lost to Andre Fili, tough guy, Darren Elkins. Obviously, we spoke about him, and then Chan Sung Jung in the Korean Zombies return. He got absolutely starched. I remember looking at it and thinking, like you said, will ring rust affect him? But no, he absolutely starched Bermudez in that fight. Rick Glenn, I was quite excited about him actually when he came over from World Series of Fighting. He was on like a crazy win streak. His only loss was to Lance Palmer, who's the champion at the time. And I thought, oh yeah, this guy could make some waves. But having watched him a bit more, I kind of feel that he's got that sort of style of Darren Elkins, a bit of an ugly fighter, a lot of pressure, but I don't really think that
that's because he spends a lot of time with Darren Elkins.
Yeah. He hasn't really got that knockout power. I never look at him and think, oh, he's going to finish anyone. He's all about volume, up in your face, grinding it, just horrible. I think if Bermudez goes back to his wrestling, I think Bermudez can win this one. Again, I think this is a really tough fight. I didn't know who to go with, but I'm going to go with Rick Glenn. I think he's going to edge it. I think it's going to be a decision.
Interesting. I thought you were about to say Dennis Bermudez then.
No, I'm going to go with Rick Glenn. I think just his volume and output will do it. Unless Bermudez goes to his wrestling and goes to it frequently, I think, which I don't think he will, because he seems to like to stand and trade. I think Rick Glenn his output will be more, and like you say, in the judges' eyes, that'll get him the win.
I agree, and I think that Dennis Bermudez is going to complete the hat trick of losing to Team Alpha Male fighters. The only reason that I think this, and I think that Bermudez is a better fighter. I think he's a more skilled fighter. I think that he's got more avenues to win, getting inside, working the body, but then he can use takedowns as well. And that combination can almost halt strikers, because they're almost a bit scared of overcommitting in case they overstep the mark and get caught in a takedown and ultimately spend time on the bottom. Now, the reason why I think Rick Glenn's going to win, and I also said the same in the Andre Fili fight, and I actually cashed Andre Fili in that fight as well as a plus money underdog. I think he was like plus 140, maybe plus 150. I can't really remember off the top of my head. Now, it was a close fight and it could have gone either way. It went my way that night, which is great. But the one thing I said in my build up with that Andre Fili fight is the great thing that these alpha male guys have when fighting Bermudez. It's funny because it's like they've almost got like a rivalry between Dennis Bermudez and Team Alpha Male. Is they've got Danny Castillo in the corner, and I think Danny Castillo is a great wrestler. I think he's a great wrestling coach now as well, obviously in the world of MMA. And I think he gets his fighters prepared perfectly for wrestlers. So, for example, Andre Fili, he actually took Bermudez down a couple of times in that fight as well. Didn't keep him down, but surprisingly took him down. I think Danny Castillo prepares his fighters against the Dennis Bermudez's of the world really, really perfectly. And I think the same here. I think that he's going to have Rick Glenn prepared for the takedowns. I think he's going to have him prepared for the scrambles. I think He might even tell him to do the same as what Fila did and surprise Dennis Bermudez with a few takedowns.
Yeah.
This is with me saying this, it's making it sound like Rick Glenn's some sort of lock in this fight, and he's not. He is like a plus 200 or so underdog in the fight. I do think the line's off, but I do agree that he's the underdog. Bermudez has got a lot to fight for in this fight because he is 3 on the bounce. Normally, the 4th loss on the bounce is your walking papers. So it'd be interesting to see what happens if he does lose. I am going to pick Rick Glenn to win. I think it is going to be close, though. I think it couldn't be another split decision where you're almost sat there thinking, well, which way is it going to go? So I don't want to be involved in that in regards to putting money down because I do think it's going to be close. I also think Andre Fili technically is so much better than Rick Glenn as well. So that also makes me wonder if Bermudez is just going to be able to handle Glenn with his last fight being, I know this is MMA math, but with his last fight against Fili being close, but Fili being a better fighter, is he actually going to pull out the win this time? I'm not sure. Ultimately, I'm going to go with Rick Glenn, but it's a very easy pass. So next we've got Sage Northcutt against Zach Ottow. So, man, again, an easy fight for me to pass on, but who have you got, John?
Yeah, definitely. Again, this is one that could go either way. Super Sage is fluctuating in those weights again. It's almost as though like the UFC don't know who to put him up against, what his best weight class is, and they kind of just try to pick fighters at either one of the weights that they think he matches up well with and can beat. It's a bit of a strange situation. His 2 fights previously at 170 pounds, he's lost to Mickey Gall and Brian Barberena, both via submission. So it seems quite bewildering that he keeps moving up to that weight and taking on 170 pounders. But saying that, no disrespect to Zach Ottow, but he doesn't exactly set the world alight. His last win was that first round knockout over Mike Pyle, but
sure.
Mike Pyle's chin went a long time ago. No disrespect to Zolta Pyle because he's a legend in the game. He's been around for a long time.
It happens, man. People get old, people fade.
It certainly does, yeah. But then, he's alternated wins and losses. I mean, he lost to Li Jinglang, who's got heavy hands, so there's no shame in that. But then he beat Kunimoto, lost to Sergio Moraes. I mean, beat Josh Bertman. It's not a great level of competition. I think Sage, going to Alpha Male has worked wonders for him as well. His last fight, I thought it was quite close. I thought he could quite easily have lost that, but over his last few fights, he seems to have been showing a bit more wrestling, a bit more discipline. But I think Sage will win it. I think, again, it'll go to the judge's decision, but I think it'll be third time lucky at 170 pounds. I think Sage will edge it. Personally, I don't think this should be the co-main event either. With some of the decent fights that we've discussed already, I find it quite strange that they've chosen to bump this one up to the co-main. But yeah, I think Sage will do enough. I think his karate style, I think he'll get in and out quite quick. He can take people down. He showed that in his last fight against Gouty. But yeah, I think ultimately he's going to edge this one.
Yeah, I agree, but man, it's with absolutely zero confidence. Like I wouldn't recommend putting money on this. I think that with Northcutt, I just don't know. I honestly just don't know, and I've got absolutely no shame in throwing my hands up and saying that I've got no clue because we don't know what he's going to look like. We don't know if he's going to come in and he's going to look great. He came out last 2 fights came out against Michel Quinones. A lot of people bet Quinones that fight. Sage absolutely destroyed him. And then he fought Thibault Gouty, potentially a robbery on the scorecards.
Yeah, that was a very close fight. That was, yeah.
And I don't think Gouty is that high level. So what are we going to get? We don't know. Again, like I mentioned with the previous fight with Chad Mendes, you're almost guessing, and I just don't know, man. And then you look at Zach Ottow. I don't mind Zach Ottow. I've cashed on him twice. I cashed on him in the Kunimoto fight. I also cashed on him in the Mike Pyle fight as well. I left his 2 losses alone, so I feel like I've got a good read on his game. But man, I've just got a funny feeling Sage Northcutt's just going to turn up again and just look great when people are writing him off after the Gouty loss. And that's all I can really go on. It's just more of a hunch rather than being able to technically break it down, because I can't technically break it down. Ottow's a good all-round fighter. He's got decent strikes. He's got decent takedowns. He's got variety. But if
Yeah,
Sage Northcutt turns up like he turned up against Canones, he looked great that fight. But then if he
he
turns
did.
up
Yeah,
against how he turned up against Gouty, then Ottow is better than Gouty, and Ottow will beat him, and will beat him definitively. So,
yeah.
flip a coin, heads or tails. I'm going to go for Sage Northcutt, but as you can
Yeah.
probably tell, zero confidence, absolutely no interest whatsoever from the betting perspective. So with
While I'm
that,
with you quickly, on Sage Northcutt, sorry to interrupt you.
no, it's all right. Go on.
22 years of age. I mean, he was hyped massively when he came into the UFC. He was part of that little group, him and Paige Van Zandt and stuff. These fresh-faced youths that are going to take over the UFC. How far do you think he can go? Because I mean, he's only 22. He's training at Alpha Male, like I said, which is a great camp, great team to be training with. He looks the part. He's got muscles growing on muscles. Do you think he can be a top level fighter, or do you just not think he's got that edge to push on and go as far as the Dana White and the UFC wanted us to believe with the hype when he came into the UFC?
Honestly, I don't know. I genuinely don't know, because he's
so
had
hard to tell with him.
Yeah, that's what I mean. With some fighters, I really struggle to get a read of the styles. Some I don't. Some I have a great read, and I've got one for the main event of this card. But I honestly don't know, because you could have said the same about Paige Van Zandt.
Yeah.
She was looking great, and you could have said, yeah, she might be good, but then you could have also had reservations about her, and ultimately the reservations probably would have been the right guess. But ultimately, I think that's what it is. I think it's a guess with Sage Northcutt. Because he's got these karate skills, and he's shredded. He's built. He looks the part. If he did get great, turn into a great top 10 fight, it'd be great to promote.
Yeah.
But man, I just don't know. It's so tough. It could personally, if I'm not sitting on the fence and I'm giving an answer, and I will do that because I never like to sit on the fence, I would personally say no. But if he is he's absolutely at the right place with Team Alpha Male.
Yeah.
That's
Be interesting
my
to see how he comes on. He almost seems too nice to be a fighter, kind of thing. It's like he's always happy, he's always friendly. I'm like, does this guy really want to hurt people?
Yeah.
But obviously he does. But how far he can go with that, be interesting to see. I'm looking forward to seeing his development. I hope he doesn't just fall off the radar and be one of those what could have been kind of guys, because he does seem like a likable bloke. But
well, interestingly,
we'll
Paige Van Zandt took that move to Team Alpha Male as well, and
yeah.
We saw what happened there. So it doesn't always work out, but in my opinion, Team Alpha Male are the best in the world at those sort of weight classes, which puts them up there with the best gyms in the world. So he's got all the right tools, he's got all the right coaches, he's got all the right training partners. It's just if he can put it all together, and we will see. And with that being said, we move on to our main event of the night. We've got Junior Dos Santos versus the newcomer Blagoy Ivanov. So who have you got in this one, John?
Well, this one, me and you had a little conversation prior to this about who we think is going to win it, and I'm going controversial. I'm going Ivanov. I don't think it's a definitive. He's going to destroy Dos Santos by any stretch of the imagination, and it also depends heavily, in my opinion, on which Dos Santos turns up. If the Dos Santos turns up that turned up against Ben Rothwell in Zagreb, again, I was at that fight, and I remember thinking, wow, he's keeping him at range with his jab was superb that night. And I remember thinking, this is like Junior Dos Santos 2.0. He looked like a completely different fighter to the one that had lost to Overeem beforehand, and I thought, this new lease of life. But then obviously fought Stipe Miocic, got put on the back foot, back against the fence, and obviously suffered that TKO loss. So Ivanov, from what I've seen of him, he likes to flurry. He's a sambo guy. Interesting enough, I think he beat Fedor Emelianenko way back when in sambo as well.
I knew you were going to mention that.
Yeah.
you're only the 48th person I've heard in the last 48 hours to mention
Yeah.
that, but
But then when you look at his resume, it's not great. I mean, he's beat Sean Jordan, Josh Copeland, UFC guys way back when. Again, he beat Rico Rodriguez, former UFC champ, way back when. LeVar Johnson in Bellator. I mean, it's not a who's who resume, really, is it? And looking at his style, when he flurries, he flurries well, and I think that'll be the key for him winning it. I think he'll need to push Dos Santos against the cage, get his back to the cage. That's where Dos Santos' weakness is. I mean, Velasquez showed that perfectly. Pressure him. Miocic again, like I say, in that last fight, push him against the cage, back to the cage, and put pressure on him. But depends whether Ivanov's going to do that. He does throw a lot of 1 and 2 punch combinations, which I don't think will be enough. I think Dos Santos will outstrike him that way. So, but I do think Ivanov's going to. I think he's going to bull rush him a bit on occasions. I think he's going to put his back against that cage. I think he's going to catch him, and I'm going with the finish as well in this one.
Cool. So, I mean, I've got a lot to say about this fight, man. I'll try and fly through it all as quickly as I possibly can now. This is my last bet of the night, so I've got 3 units on Junior Dos Santos at -162. And, man, I think this is a really good stylistic matchup for him. I have seen a few people, a few people bet Ivanov, but a lot of people just picking him to win. And, man, I just do not see it at all. I feel like I've got a really good read on this fight. When I actually went into tape, when I was studying it, I went into tape to actually bet Ivanov. So that was my mindset.
Yeah.
When I went in to watch it, I was like, right, I want to fade JDS. I just don't think he's there anymore. This Ivanov, I'd heard of him around the WSOF and the PFL. So I'd already knew of his name. I'd heard good things about him. But when I went into tape and watched him, I was actually quite surprised with what I saw in regards to him not being this electric heavyweight that I thought that he was going to be. And ultimately, it not only made me pick Dos Santos, it's made me bet Dos Santos because of it as well. Now,
Yeah.
Junior Dos Santos for me is more of a point fighter now.
Yeah.
He's not he's not like his old self where he'll be aggressive and rush to get that knockout. And to be honest with you, I think at this stage in his career, that's the smart approach to take as well, because he's got the skills to be a point fighter.
Agreed,
and also
yeah.
he's been knocked out 3 times as well. But having said that, I don't think his chin's gone. So I'm hearing a lot of people saying that he's got no chin anymore. You know, go back to the Stipe Miocic fight, the guy that seems to knock everybody out. Miocic hit him and was hitting him with some clean shots often, shots that you thought might at least rock Dos Santos with this so-called gone chin, and that just wasn't the case at all. You know, Dos Santos was taking these shots. He wasn't looking entirely hurt. You know, you could tell they were hurting him, but what I mean is he wasn't rocking or doing the chicken dance or the stanky leg, whatever you want to call it. It wasn't none of that. The punch that actually knocked Dos Santos out was clean. It was on the button and it had the right trajectory on the punch as well. And it was just one of those that if Miocic had hit any heavyweight in that division with that punch, they would have all ended up face planting as well. Now, in regards to the chin, I just want to talk about the people that have knocked Dos Santos out, just to clarify that, you know, this happens to most people, not people that have just got declined chins. So we've got 13 knockouts from Miocic out of 18 fights. With Overeem, we've got 21 knockouts out of 43 fights. And with Cain Velasquez, we've got 12 knockouts out of 14 fights. So these are guys that are knocking everybody out, not just Dos Santos. So I just wanted to clear that myth up, because I don't think his chin is done. Could he get knocked out by Ivanov? Absolutely, the heavyweights, and he does hit hard. But it's not a case of, you know, you've got to fade this guy because he's got a bad chin, because that's not the case at all. Now, in regards to the styles, like I've said, Dos Santos is a point fighter right now, and because of that, you need 3 things. You need a mixture of 3 things to beat Dos Santos. You need pressure, you need power, you need combinations. So if you don't have one of those 3 things, you are going to struggle to beat Dos Santos with this new approach. Now, Miocic is the perfect example of the person that has all those 3 things. He's definitely got power, as we've just discussed. He was putting the pressure on Dos Santos constantly throughout that fight, and he had the combinations. Now the combinations is the key one in this fight, because and go back and watch the Rothwell fight, because when Rothwell was putting pressure on him, Rothwell had pressure, he had the power, but he couldn't put combinations together. And what you saw of JDS when he wasn't getting hit with combos and just one shot and two shot at a time, is he circles once his back hits the cage, when he's on the back foot, he circles out perfectly, and he actually does an extremely good job of it. He was doing a good job of it against Miocic as well, but ultimately the combinations just caught up with him. But the reason why he was able to beat Rothwell is because those combinations weren't there. So every time Rothwell pressed forward, JDS, like, as soon as his back hit the cage or was getting close to the cage, he circled out instantly, circled out perfectly, took center of the cage, started popping the jab off with the body shots as well. And this is the same with Ivanov. Ivanov's got pressure, he will move forward. He's got power, he can wing the overhand bombs, to finish any fighter at heavyweight. But he doesn't have the combinations. He throws one shot and two shots at a time. Like you mentioned, a lot of 1-2s. He doesn't throw the 3s and 4s as well that are really gonna put enough pressure on Dos Santos to finish him. And I think that's going to be really key in this fight, because if he can't do that, I think JDS is I think we're almost going to see a carbon copy of the Rothwell fight, except I think it might actually be a bit easier for Dos Santos. The reason I'm saying it's easier, I think Ivanov's a better fighter than Rothwell, but I think the size, the height, and the reach disadvantage for Ivanov is going to come into play here.
Yeah, he's only about 5'11", isn't he? Which is pretty small for a heavyweight.
Yeah.
So he hasn't. He's going to find it tough to get inside, especially if Dos Santos is pumping out that jab like he was against Rothwell.
Exactly, he's 5 inches smaller in height, and I think someone else was mentioned that even McGregor's got a bigger reach than Ivanov. So, I think someone used the words T-Rex arms, which I thought was quite funny. So, like you've just said, he's gonna be dying to get inside and start working Dos Santos. But that's the thing, like with Rothwell, he didn't have to get inside. He could just come forward and land if he wanted to, and if he was able to. But with Ivanov, the first thing that he has to do is close distance. Then he has to think about his striking. And honestly, I think, like I've mentioned with JDS circling away without the combinations come in, and I think the longer the fight goes on, the more desperate Ivanov's going to be to get inside and land those bombs. The more desperate he gets, the bigger the bombs he'll get. The bigger the bombs get, the easier it'll be for Dos Santos to see it come in. I don't think Dos Santos is done yet. A lot of people are saying he is. People are saying, he's coming off this USADA suspension. The USADA suspension actually got overturned.
Yeah,
because
it was overturned. He didn't actually do anything. It's tainted supplements, if
absolutely.
I believe.
Absolutely. So it's not as if he was using something to benefit himself, knowingly. Honestly, I think we're going to see JDS come out here. I think he's going to be the point fighter. I think Ivanov's going to struggle, and I think JDS is actually going to win a decision. I don't think he knocks him out. Am I concerned of an overhand coming and hitting JDS? Obviously, I am, because it's heavyweight. You always run that risk when you're betting a heavyweight. And if Ivanov does come out and he does recognise what I've seen, that he needs combinations, and he is including 3s and 4s after his 1 and 2s, then absolutely he's got a great chance of beating Dos Santos, because if he does that for 5 rounds, I'm not sure Dos Santos lasts. But man, I can only go on what I see on tape. The other thing to mention with the Sambo stuff, yes, he beat Fedor, as I've heard a billion times this week already. But in the tape, man, I didn't see him take anybody down. Like, not at all.
No, he doesn't
I might have
seem
been
like
watching the wrong
big,
fights. I'm not going to go through his entire record and watch every single fight. I watched 3 or 4 of his fights just to make sure that what he was doing was consistent and he wasn't changing per fight. I didn't see him try and take anybody down, so I sort of can't factor that into the analysis. But also in that respect, Dos Santos has got an 80% takedown defense record, so if he does try and take him down, Dos Santos is going to be the bigger fighter. Is he going to be able to throw him to the floor with his judo? I'd be very surprised if he picked Dos Santos up. Like I say, I feel that I've got a really good read on this fight. I feel that for some reason UFC are throwing Dos Santos a bone with this one. I've just got that feeling. So Yeah, to wrap it up, I've got 3 units on Junior Dos Santos at -162.
Just quite interestingly, digressing slightly, when you were watching the Ivanov tape, did you happen to see his fight with Ilia Latifi when they broke the ring? That was
No, I
quite
didn't. But
interesting.
for some reason, I feel like I've seen that somewhere in the past. Yeah, man, I'm not going.
I think it was. I'm
not going to his 2-0, into his third pro fight into his career back in 2008. I'm not digging 10 years into tape.
I thought you might have seen the name Latifi and thought, oh, I'll check this out.
I didn't even look that far down.
Yeah, that's where I got to. Yeah, I think it was on some like Bulgarian regional scene. It was a ring rather than a cage, and they're like pressed up against the corner post for a while, and you could see this ring shaking around. And obviously Latifi's a big guy as well, and then they push up against the ropes, and literally like all the ropes just collapse, and the ring kind of just falls apart, and it's ruled a no contest. I was like, this is brilliant. I've never seen this happen before, and I probably won't see it again ever.
I'm definitely gonna check that out after this.
Yeah, sure. But yeah, YouTube that, it's quite funny.
And with that being said, John, that's all she wrote. So I just want to thank you for your time and to come onto the podcast to break some fights down there.
I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it too, man. What I'm going to do now is just give you a chance to plug anything you need to, let people know where to find you, what you're up to, whatever you want to talk about. There's no rush with it whatsoever. I know I've put you on the spot a little, but the floor is yours, man. Take it away.
No, of course. Thank you very much. Yeah, if anyone wants to follow my stuff on Twitter, at MMA and me. Jon Prentice is the name. You can find my work on I write for Fight Post, who are on Twitter and Facebook, and also MMA UK. So if you want to follow my stuff, I do quite like to do a lot of the UK MMA scene as well. I mean, like you said, we first met each other at the ACB card up in Nottingham. I'm going to be down at Cage Warriors 95 in London in a couple of weeks' time. So yeah, any guys that are into their UK MMA, I cover that quite heavily as well. So yeah, check it out if you can.
For sure. I mean, I met the guy that runs that Fight Post website. I sat next to him throughout the ACB Nottingham event. So pretty cool guy. So yeah, love the passion that comes out of that site for sure. So for me, the usual quick message from myself: if you're listening to this podcast on the Newsome MMA YouTube channel, it's also available on the Newsome MMA website too, along with so much additional content surrounding all aspects of MMA. It's really got something for everybody on the website. We've got betting advice, we've got MMA podcasts like this one, we've got a brand new DraftKings section, we've got specific content coming from Heavy Duty Fight Management team. Also, please check out my sponsors of Newsome MMA, which is CBD Life UK. You can access the offers from my sponsorship by clicking any of the banners on the Newsome MMA website, and also you'll get a 15% off your first order by using promo code Newsome MMA, so don't miss out on those offers either. So that's it from me, guys. I'll be back early next week for UFC Hamburg, an event I'll be attending live. I fly out to Germany on the Friday morning, so I'm super excited for that. Please like and subscribe to this channel. Make sure you get all the notifications when I drop the UFC Hamburg podcast. The reason being is I've got some very strong leans on the card, and some of the fighters I fully expect to be underdogs, and pretty big underdogs as well. So don't miss out on those tips. Once again,